Hello, everyone, and welcome to yet another edition of the Dynasty Fantasy Football Central podcast. I'm Michael Moore. He's Jonathan Scott. Say hello, Jonathan.
Hey, everybody.
Jonathan, we are moving on to week 7. It's officially a third of the way through the season, almost halfway through the season. And we're going to look in our usual format for this 3x3 podcast, that we call it, which took a lot of creativity. Uh, at three stories with a dynasty sort of tilt to watch from last week, and 3 going forward. And then I think at the end we will go through the updated tight end rankings that you can find on dynastyfantasyfootballcentral.com. So without further ado, mainly because Jonathan has a soccer game, so we're going to roll right through this. Let's get into last week's stories, Jonathan. And I think probably the biggest one, which has redraft and dynasty implications, was Victor Cruz going down rather violently, I should say. It was not pretty. So yeah, why don't you kick us off with that?
All right, man. So this one hurt a little bit, just because I own him in a couple redrafts. But yeah, the interesting thing about Victor Cruz going forward is we really have to keep an eye on how this rehab progresses. He's not the biggest guy in the world. He is someone that depends not even on his speed, but his lateral quickness and agility. And if I was smarter, I'd know more about how patellar tendon injuries affect one's agility and speed. I really don't off the top of my head because it's not an injury that's talked about too often. He's 27, so I'm not going to say he can't come back into the form he was before. And I think he would still, even in this offense, be slotted in perfectly for that slot receiver, especially when I think Odell Beckham's going to establish himself as the number one guy going forward on the outside. And they sort of rotate that outside guy with Jernigan for some reason and Ruben Randle. So I don't think Victor Cruz's job is in jeopardy for next year. They will let him start in a 3-wide set as a slot. But, man, I would have serious reservations about whether or not Cruz can be that same guy going forward.
Yeah, I mean, heading into the season, he was ranked about 20th as far as dynasty rankings go, which, depending on your opinion of the Giants' offense, might have been a little high. I think definitely a low-end wide receiver, too, is I think how he was viewed by a lot of people. But, yeah, it's really going to be a wait-and-see approach with him going forward because, unfortunately, it's not like he did this at the beginning of the season or even preseason. It was damn near a third way through the season. So you just got to watch the rehab, like you said, and see. Hopefully, it doesn't take that long. But that was his game was quickness and speed and beating guys off the ball. And if a guy like that, a small guy doesn't have that, then he doesn't have much else. So yeah, that's a little scary. But for the dynasty implications, that does have Odell Beckham coming on down. So, and I know you liked him a lot, Jonathan, heading into the season. So why don't you expound upon that a little bit?
Yeah, so this is a guy that has shown it in the couple of games he's played so far, and I think Eli Manning is going to force feed him the ball because, man, I don't want my season relying on Jernigan and Ruben Randle, but
you sure?
Relatively, yeah.
All right.
They're guys. I mean, Ruben Randle is going to tease everyone till the day he dies, and Jernigan is just replaceable. He's replacement level, definition of. But Odell Beckham, I think, has a chance to really establish himself as the best receiver stats-wise, and maybe even the physicality of it in this entire draft class, which is saying something. Mike Evans has struggled with injury a little bit, and just the overall function of being a Tampa Bay Buccaneer. Brandon Cooks has actually been pretty productive, but they're using him in weird ways. They're using him way more like Darren Sproles than I thought they would. He should be going downfield more. His average route run per pass play is one of the lowest in the league. So that's kind of concerning. He's going to be limited in a lot of his opportunities, but Odell Beckham is going to run every route in the route tree that he can, and they're going to trust him with a lot of stuff. He's going to have a chance to hit small, intermediate and long routes, where the other ones, and especially with Benjamin's concussion right now, I don't know that they're going to have the same chance as he is. So going forward, I would expect him to put up, high-end wide receiver 2 numbers going forward. So if you have him, start him. And you're probably not going to be able to trade for him because his stock isn't going to be higher than this week. So,
yeah, I'd agree with that. And look, I will admit the Giants' offense has looked a hell of a lot better the last couple of weeks than it did the first month or so.
Yeah.
The first month or so, I think it was what people thought it might be, which is awful, with no offensive line. But look, you throw Beckham in there, and unfortunately we didn't get to see a whole lot with Beckham and Cruz, but for the few games they had, they looked pretty good. So
Yeah.
hopefully, look, Beckham's going to be thrown into that fire no matter what, and he's going to get targets. There is no doubt about that. So, look, this is really, I mean, we're going to know pretty quickly if Beckham's got it or not, which, you know, it's a double-edged sword. You could have a stud on your hands in his rookie season, or you could find out pretty quickly that high draft pick is not going to work out so well.
And I would lean to the former, just because there's nothing he can't do. He may not be a superstar, however you want to define that, but I think there's very little chance that he falls on his face. I mean, worst case scenario, maybe he's Michael Crabtree, who is a fine receiver. He's not great, but he's perfectly fine and will get you numbers in a pinch. High end, I think he's a faster Roddy White, and you know, we'll see. This year will tell you what end of the spectrum that's going to be. You're right.
Yeah, and look, the hope is, at least for Beckham owners, that the Giants don't slow down. Now, given they got shut out by Philadelphia, who by no means is a good defense, so I think there's still going to be those weeks that the Giant offense really frustrates people. But look, at the end of the day, Beckham, personally, you know, they're going to say Randall's the number one there, but I think you and I probably agree it's not reality. I mean,
I don't even think they'll say that. Why would they say that?
Well, I'm just saying, as far as the primary target there, believe me, like you said, they've been touting Randall since he has come into the league, and it just never, ever happened. So,
yeah.
So, one follow-up: what does this do? And believe me, this is not anything we would have imagined saying before the season. Does it do anything for Larry Donnell's stock? I only say that because we'll cover that later in the podcast with our tight end rankings, because he shot up there pretty quickly. But you know, for a month there, he was pretty good. But again, that was without Beckham. So the question is, does he make up for any of the losses by Cruz, or with Beckham here, he's as good as done?
No, I actually think that in a weird way, Victor Cruz being out actually is a good thing for Larry Donnell. I don't think.
Is it Donnell or Donnell? We're saying it differently.
I don't know. Whatever.
All right. I didn't know if it had some special. I don't know. It's okay.
I mean, Terrell Owens went 11 years until correcting somebody. So until Donnell comes out and tells me it's different, I don't really care.
Man, I remember that.
Yeah. But anyway, like Victor Cruz, once they got their full bevy of receivers back, Victor Cruz is back to his normal self of option routes, intermediate, flag routes, etc. All these, and working the seam, all the things that Larry Donnell excels at. And I think that's going to open up for him. I don't think Odell Beckham affects him, because Odell Beckham is going to stay on the sidelines. He's going to stay out wide. And I think you're going to see, listen, he's still going to be a boomer bust guy week to week, because he is very dependent in the offense on getting end zone touches. But I think you're going to see more targets going forward, because I do think he's talented. I think he's good. And he'll have more. I can't imagine the Giants deciding they're going to stick with their three-wide set. I think they're probably more comfortable letting Donnell take that middle of the field area than versus letting Janelle Jurgen take that. I hope I'm right. Maybe I'm not, but that'd be my guess.
Yeah, I would agree with all that. And look, at the very least, if you have Donnell, it's a hold. I mean, I don't think they haven't fully realized what they want to do on offense, because they haven't had everyone healthy yet. So.
Exactly. They're very much in transition right now, and over the next few weeks, you'll see what exactly they want to do for the rest of the year.
Right. I would agree with that. All right, moving on. What is our second topic for the evening?
So I'm going to go ahead and go to something that we disagree about, and I'm in a generally salty mood, and I don't know how to say his name either. So Jace Amaro or JC Amaro, I think it's Jace. But
Jace. It's just Jace. I only know that because one of the teen moms named her kid Jace, and it's spelled it the same, so it's Jace. Trust me.
Fair enough. So I saw you tweet out about it, and I didn't want to make fun of you on Twitter, but the breakout game by Jace Amaro. I don't really know how you want to attack this as far as what happened in the past in this game and what's going to happen going forward. I still, like, he's a guy to me. To have 10 catches and only 60 yards, I don't know if that's a function of the offensive coordinator on Geno Smith, on Amaro not just being able to run more than 8 yards in a route. I don't know. But that is something that is just incredibly target dependent week to week. So If you think he's the guy going forward week to week and he's just going to get 15 targets a week, man, you got yourself a tight end one. But otherwise, I don't know.
Look, and let me preface all of that. I am by no means saying like, well, he's certainly not a starter right now. I'm not saying that.
Yeah.
I think, look, I'm a big believer that the situation plays a big role, especially in dynasty mode.
Yeah.
And he's the best tight end they have. I'm sorry, Jeff Cumberland is not the answer. And B, he's the guy in second for targets behind Decker.
Yeah.
There is no one else, okay? So I think just on that basis alone, he's worth a value. And again, we'll cover this later, but in our dynasty rankings, he's 17th. I think that's perfect for him, right? Meaning he's not a tight end 1 by any means, but look, he's a high-end tight end 2, and he's a rookie. I think that's about right. And I agree with you. The Jets' offense in general is not good. So it's not like, hey, Jason Morrow is going to be a stud in a top-flight offense. But look, at the same time, he's a rookie. There's a lot of time left. And, look, if we're looking at this year only, the Jets are going to be a bad team that are going to be behind a lot. And I guarantee you that's going to come in handy for that. So, look, he's going to start. That's fine. That's about the most value I think he has right now. He's just a starter on a team, which, look, for rookies is a big deal, especially in dynasty leagues, right? Because you could flip that around real quick. I guarantee you, if you have Jason Morrow now and somebody's giving you a good deal, take it. I'm with you there. Take it.
I would agree, yeah. I would even say if he has another big week this weekend against New England, who lost their best linebacker in coverage and both run protection, and has a very suspect defense outside of Revis, who will be on Eric Decker, I think there's a good chance that he could have another big game tonight, weather withholding, obviously. And if he has another decent game against a team that he's set up to be successful against, I would look into flipping that into an asset in the future because I don't know that long-term he's a guy that you can really depend on. He still has issues with drops. He still has issues with route running and blocking. Like, he's very, very raw. And I don't know.
So what you're saying is he has issues being an NFL tight end.
Yeah, I didn't want to go there. And look, because he's a rookie. Like, he reminds me more of, man, who did I'm on a damn podcast. I should know this. The dude the Cowboys drafted in the second round last year.
Gavin Escobar.
Thank you. That's who he reminds me of. And the difference is that Escobar doesn't start. But all the things you heard about Escobar coming out of college, none of them have been improved on. And I kind of see that with Amaro. All the things you talk about that he wasn't good at, he hasn't really gotten better yet. And that is sort of worrying to me. So,
yeah. And I can see that. Yeah, and like I said, of the big 3 rookie tight ends, there's no doubt he's number 3 for me. No doubt in my mind.
Totally agree.
So I think, I think expectations are right in line now with what he is going to be. Right? He's not going to be a stud, but at the same time, look, could he be a productive tight end for years to come? Only because he's, in a good situation? Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, that's fair. And I don't think there's a whole lot to add to that. I mean, good for him.
Yeah.
He's going to be fine. If you have him, you may be able to use him in spot starts. But going forward in the offseason, if you don't see those things I talked about improving, you may put him out there.
I would completely agree. So.
Yeah.
All right, next.
The next one's a fun one. So Brandon Oliver of the San Diego Chargers. There's going to be a bit of a split on opinion of him for this year, but going forward in the future, I actually think this guy's got running back 2 kind of written all over him. I think that Woodhead, the contract there is enough to where now that he's been on IR, that injury did not look good. He could lose a little bit of what he had. Brandon Oliver, to me, looks like a tougher, quicker version of Danny Woodhead. And in that offense, with that coach and that quarterback who we talked about last week, who have every answer to every question a defense can ask, there's a lot of potential there for big plays, targets out of the backfield in the passing game, and he reminds me of a very, very, very good version of Antone Smith of Atlanta, where he's going to bust one on about 40-yard touchdown every other week, but he's going to get more targets out of the backfield than Smith does. I actually like him quite a bit. He's an interesting guy.
I probably like him even more than you.
Wow, all right.
And here's why. He's filling in for Ryan Matthews, Donald Brown, and Danny Woodhead all at one time, right?
Yeah.
And look, he's doing it. Like, he's really good. And Guess who's a free agent after this season?
I know.
Who? Say it.
I'm not gonna. I can't
Say
do
it.
it. No, you do it.
Ryan Matthews,
Oh yeah.
free agent. So, look, man, I think the stars are aligning for this guy. I think they let Matthews go because why not? They're performing at a high level without him. There's absolutely no reason to re-sign him. None. Okay.
Yeah, I agree. I
He's
think Donald Brown can do most of what he does.
He's 27, right?
Yep.
And look, they still got Woodhead and Brown under contract. So look, those two can fight it out for the passing back role. But as far as the first and second down role, why would you give that to Oliver?
Size. I mean, strictly.
Great, and he's proving that he can withstand that.
Well, hold on. We're 2 games in. So, yeah, he's proving that he can not get hurt through the course of a game, right?
Right.
And there's a difference.
I agree, but he's also playing at a pretty high level. Okay.
He is. I'm not saying he's not. Like, he's had a very good showing so far. I don't know that you give him the 280 to 320 carries a year and the plays out of the backfield, but I do think.
No. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying he's a 300 carry guy, but look, Matthews last year, right, when he seemingly had his best season, or at least San Diego had their best season with him, as the first and second down back.
Yeah.
I'm looking it up. Matthews had, he had 285 carries, right? So do I think, if you just relegated Oliver to something like that, he could do that and perform it well? Yeah, I really think he could.
I would say his ceiling is in fantasy anyway is a poor man's Gio Bernard. Not quite as big. I don't think he can do quite as much as far as splitting out wide on his own and running an option route or something like that. But if you look at how they used Darren Sproles, they did split him out a little bit towards the end of his career. But in the beginning of San Diego, he was someone that was a ton of third down draw plays, screens, out of the backfield after chipping a blocker, and he got a couple hundred carries a year and 50 or 60 targets out of the backfield. You're talking about an asset at that point that is absolutely worth having. And, that's fair. I mean, I don't want to – he's not the primary back. They'll hold on to either Matthews or Donald Brown. That'll be the guy that they run into the line 300 times a year. But when they want to actually do something productive on offense, that's when he'll come in.
Yeah, so. And I think, in this day and age of – running backs being a dime a dozen, a guy like that in a very good offense, man, that's exciting. I'm kind of ashamed of myself for not catching on sooner.
Yeah, I'm sort of coming around to offenses in fantasy football. That we used to say if a running back gets 20 carries a week, you just start him. He's your guy. I'm starting to now say if a running back gets 7 to 8 targets out of the backfield, that's your guy. Because those seem to be more guaranteed than the 100-yard, 20-carry backs. So
right. Yeah.
It's just kind of interesting, but
yeah. And look, I think your assessment as a running back too going forward is probably spot on.
Yeah.
And look, he could border running back 1, but again, that's going to depend on usage and just overall scheme. But
that'll be variance year to year because that'll depend on big plays. If he gets big plays, then he'll be that. But I wouldn't count on that.
Right. But at the end of the day, yeah, you've got an asset. I'd be in buy mode with Oliver. So
that's fine.
Anyway. All right, so that was week 6. Let's look forward to week 7, and you had a very hot topic, which was the Patriots' backfield. Which, good luck.
Yeah.
So go ahead, lead us off. By the way, James White, healthy scratch. Go.
Yeah, if you're a James White owner, I don't know what to tell you. Sorry.
Which I am. Oh, I am.
Yeah. I mean, I guess if you're the second running back on your college team, you're probably not the best option on a professional team. Who'd have known? Yeah, who could have seen that coming? But, yeah, so, I mean, the running back situation, if you are a Stephen Ridley owner right now, I would tell you this is a Mark Ingram type situation, just plus a devastating injury. He's going to go somewhere, and as long as he's healthy, he's going to get a better chance than he did in New England. New England had one of the worst run-blocking offensive lines this year in football. Watching them week over week, as I have, they're pretty goddamn awful. Now, Stephen Ridley didn't do a ton to help himself. I understand that. He's not dynamic in the sense of he's going to make 4 people miss. But he is really good in between the tackles. He can make that first guy miss and put his head down and average 4.5 to 5 yards a carry. He may go somewhere like a Ben Tate and all of a sudden be good just because of the volume he's willing to get. Because he's not injury-prone outside of this injury. This is one of his first major injuries. But I'm going to have a choice to make. We can only keep 16 people on a 40-man roster in our league. I don't know that he's going to make the cut as someone I'm going to keep going forward. So it's a tough situation because I don't think anybody should give you or will give you anything of value for him either to hold on to the next year. That situation going forward, man, I have no idea. I still don't know what the hell they're doing with Shane Vereen. Obviously, James White isn't the answer. They just signed a dude off the practice squad to come in and be the starter tonight, it sounds like. It's becoming the more evil version of Mike Shanahan offenses back in the late 90s with running backs. Like, you just can't trust them, that they even use them correctly. So, I mean, you would hope Shane Vereen is used correctly and is used in a more wide variety of role, but I can't put any faith in it. So I would avoid this Patriots situation like the plague going forward, to be honest.
Yeah, and look, even if they settle on someone, it's not like it's going to last.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I think the most consistent runner they ever had in the Belichick era was probably Corey Dillon, and it lasted maybe 2 to 3 years, like tops.
Yeah.
So, yeah, for dynasty purposes, it's just very murky. And even Vereen, I don't know. I don't necessarily foresee them splashing a lot of money to re-sign him.
I don't get that, man. He should be so damn good. God, he should be so damn good.
You know, and it's almost like the Patriots like to, go in the opposite direction that you think they are, just like to mess with people, That's
a logical answer at this point.
Seriously, I mean, last game, just for example, he had 5 rushes for 4 yards and 1 reception. Like, and look, I know a lot of people were counting on him as a running back too, but I mean, I wouldn't be comfortable with that this year at all.
No, I wouldn't either, unfortunately.
And I agree. It's too bad because look, it seemed like Belichick found a diamond in the rough there, but
yep.
It's seemingly the only guarantee in New England is Rob Gronkowski, and even that's not a guarantee. So, anyway. But all right, so what else do we have for Week 7?
Something that has been a topic in the preseason that has actually reminded me to go try and trade for him real quick. We're going to talk about the Jaguars wide receivers, and specifically the ones that are playing right now. The one that's actually intriguing is Allen Robinson. I'm going to go try and trade for Marquise Lee. Whee! But yes, I mean, this is something you wanted to talk about. Allen Robinson was a guy who was a measurable guy who played a little bit in college, and you could see the tape, but there wasn't a whole lot of faith that he would get on the field and get the chances. Turns out Marquise Lee was the one that had the bigger hamstring issue, and Allen Robinson's getting in the field. So what did you see? What do you think it means going forward with Bortles as his quarterback?
I will admit, I was not one of those that was a fan of Robinson heading into the season. I definitely would have preferred Lee over Robinson in dynasty formats because, I think a lot of us thought, hey, Lee's the more polished player. And, look, he was supposed to be the number 1 pick before last season.
Yeah.
So, and he was definitely the bigger name. So I think people, including myself, thought that. But, look, Robinson's not bad, man. He's 21. He's 6'3". And seemingly he's the only healthy receiver now in Jacksonville.
Well, yeah.
But look, last week he started alongside Cecil Shorts. He had 9 targets, caught 8 of them for 68 yards.
Mm-hmm.
And that's on a bad team. I mean, and look, whenever he's played, he's caught at least, okay, let's just break it down. Week 2, 4 for 75. Week 3, 7 for 79. Week 4, 5 for 36. Week 5, 5 for 51. And Week 6, 8 for 68. I mean, you're looking at double-digit fantasy points every single week.
Yep.
And that's as a rookie, as a 21-year-old rookie. So, look, it may be really quick to turn, but I'm probably a Robinson believer now, at least in dynasty formats. And look, I think the Jacksonville offense can only get better, especially now that Bortles is getting some experience. And I'm a believer. I'd be in buy mode at this point.
Yeah, I think Bortles helps quite a bit, to be honest, because he's someone that can actually avoid a rush and get deep and hit a random play that normal quarterbacks wouldn't. And by normal, I mean Chad Henne. So,
rest in peace.
Yeah, well, he's making money. He's fine. I shouldn't say that. That's insensitive. He lost his job. That's not fair.
He did.
So, I mean, I think it's interesting. I think he's somebody that is going to take the opportunity that's presented to him at the moment. I still have faith that Marquise Lee is now finding the field. He may get more of that intermediate route stuff, and Allen Robinson, much like Terrence Williams in Dallas, may be the guy that hits a lot of the play action crossing routes and the deep balls because that's kind of what he's built as. You know, you said 6'3", 215, 220 or so, ran the 4.3 40 in college and his pro days and stuff. So I'm sure they envision him more in that role, but for right now, they haven't. I mean, Allen Hurd is hurt again. Apparently, that's just going to be his thing. That's his brand. Cool.
Look, please don't bank on Allen Hurds.
You shouldn't.
He's not good. Okay.
Yeah.
He had a couple good games, great, but no, don't. For dynasty purposes, you can let him go. It's okay.
Yep. I think Lee comes back and makes the offense better. Mercedes Lewis is still out for a while, as is he want to do. So it's just, I think it's interesting. I think going forward, if they develop together, like those three, the quarterback and two receivers, that's how I'm going to phrase them, it's the triangle of promise. If they can develop together and they can sort of get their roles defined throughout the end of the year, I think it's going to be huge for the development going forward. Because I think both of those receivers are very specialized in what they do, and it's not really of a huge value for them to learn all the route tree and all the roles of all the receivers. So I'll be intrigued going forward to see how they develop the roles and define what the role in the offense is.
Yeah, I would be in big time high mode, I think, with him. I mean, I wouldn't give up necessarily maybe a first or a second round dynasty draft pick, but if you've got a solid player that you can dangle for him, I would do it. I really would.
Yep, I completely agree. So,
all right, third topic. Go.
I'm kind of agreeing so far today. That's odd.
I haven't had enough to drink, so.
That's your fault. Yeah, so the last thing we'll talk about as a whole is the Browns' offense, and sort of focusing in on the quarterbacks a little bit, both for this year and going forward. I still think Hoyer kind of sucks, but
probably.
I mean, the dude completed 8 passes on Sunday. Congrats. I'm happy for you.
And he's a winner.
Sure, whatever. Hashtag white guy. He's perfectly fine. Like, I've seen too many quarterbacks that are career backups have this great run, and teams get burned on them year over year over year. Like, it just happens all the time, man. And Hoyer is doing well for what they have right now. They've played a decent enough schedule. It's about to get real easy, too, so he's about to look a lot better. He's playing like the Jets, the Jaguars, and the Bucs in the next 3 weeks. Like, it's going to look good. So but going forward, I got to imagine this is the same coaching staff, the same regime that drafted a guy in the first round that they want him to play. It may not be this year because the team's better than they thought they would be, but losing Alex Mack is a big deal of that offensive line. It's going to cause a lot of problems running between the tackles, which is what they want to do. And so a lot more is going to be asked of Brian Hoyer. The funny thing is, right when he's about to be exposed, they get Josh Gordon back. So I don't know. Maybe he doesn't ever get exposed, signs a big deal somewhere, and moves on. But I have to imagine, no matter what happens this year, Manziel's the guy next year going forward.
Yeah, and I don't necessarily disagree with that. I think the bigger question, at least for dynasty owners, is what do you do with Hoyer? Because if he keeps winning, and look, I'm not saying I agree with this thinking, but he will probably find a job somewhere next year, right?
Yeah. Sure.
I mean, it's kind of the Alex Smith corollary, meaning, you don't turn the ball over and we win? Great, then you have a job. I know, I'm not knocking Alex Smith. He's great, I guess.
No, I was just thinking to myself, has Brian Hoyer traditionally in his career not turned the ball over? I kind of thought he did.
Well, not this year.
Okay, that's fair.
But I agree with you. I don't think, I don't think they're necessarily going to ride the Hoyer train the next year. Look, it would take some magical run for them to do that. But I guess my question is, the offense seems like, at least this new regime, that they want to be sort of that power running offense style. Yeah. They've got 3 pretty good running backs at the helm right now. So
yeah,
it's not like they don't have the personnel to do it. I wonder how good Manziel's going to, meaning, if he's in a run-first offense, then that kind of limits his value, right? I mean, look, you could argue before the Adrian Peterson debacle, which is what I'll call it, Minnesota was probably a run-first team, but now, you could argue that, hey, they're probably going to want to pass the ball more with Bridgewater. But with Cleveland, it seems like the safe route is to run it, which I don't necessarily disagree with. So
hold on. So which begot which first? So are they running a safe offense because that's the offense they want to run, or because that's the quarterback they have?
sure,
Right.
and I agree with that. And just for the record, Hoyer has exactly 1 interception so far.
And 8 turnovers in his career at 340 attempts. So he actually does hold on to the ball pretty well.
Right. So, like I said, for Hoyer, personally, I think he's a hold in dynasty leagues. And I agree. It's not necessarily going to be in Cleveland next year, but I promise you, if a team like Tennessee maybe drafts a quarterback early and they want some mentor, or I don't know, name another team that needs a quarterback that doesn't turn the ball over. The Jets?
I keep going back to the Texans or Houston in this scenario because they're the obvious team that if they had a quarterback, they'd be fucking awesome.
Right.
So
I don't disagree with that.
The other thing to remember is going into next year, he's going to be 30 years old. Like, this guy has been in the league for 6 years, which is mind-blowing, by the way. But, I mean, it's just so rare that a guy gets drafted mid-round, never plays, is out of the league, gets picked up on the waiver wire, and turns into an awesome player. Like, it just doesn't. In my lifetime, it's Kurt Warner and then nothing. Like, so I can't imagine this guy's the next Kurt Warner. Maybe he is, and if he is, awesome, but I would not bank on it. And if he does become that, like you said, it's not going to happen in Cleveland.
Yeah, and look, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that he's going to be a Kurt Warner type either, but quarterbacks are pretty valuable. So
They are.
and he could have some staying power, I think. No?
I got you now. We're good.
Okay, there you go. I think that was all 3 topics for.
Yeah, that's it. We do need to go over the tight end rankings, though.
Yeah, so that will be what rounds us out. So I will pull those up right now. So the top 3, well, really top 4 is a fairly solid consensus, meaning Graham. This isn't necessarily what we rank them. This is sort of an amalgamation of other sites around there. I agree with the top 3, but with Cameron, I don't know, man. I'm not necessarily sold on that. Are you?
Not really, but I will say there's stability there. He signed a contract. They view him as a part of the offense moving forward. And there's a bit of an opportunity while Josh Gordon is not there. And even when Josh Gordon gets back, like, you're guaranteed number 2 target in the offense. So I get it. I would probably look at someone a little higher end of the ceiling when it came to like Jordan Reed or Eric Ebron or even Travis Kelce ahead of those. But that's more of what's your flavor kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not really sold on it. Meaning, do I think there's some guys that could give him a run for his money? Yeah, personally, I do. I don't think it's a slam dunk that he's the number 4 dynasty tight end. I mean, the other 3, yeah, I will grant that all day, but
yeah,
I don't know.
I'd say that's fair.
I mean, I'm an Olsen fan, as you know.
Yeah.
And look, even someone like Ebron, who's not there yet by any means, I think could be there. There's a lot of guys that could give him a run for his money. Hell, even Kelce could, I think.
Yeah.
But we'll cover that in a minute. So, so let's get bad news. So the big drops for this month: Kyle Rudolph from 6 to 11, Jason Witten from 12 to 16, and then Dennis Pitta from 13 to 20. So let's cover Kyle Rudolph first. I mean, I don't know. Personally, I was pretty high on him entering the season. I thought Norv Turner would turn him around, but it seems like, look, they just don't have a quarterback / offense to run him through. Is that about right?
I would respectfully disagree. I think he's the focal point of that offense in the passing game going forward. Like, it seems like we're just marking him down, and not we, but they're marking him down because of the injury. And maybe that's fair for this year, but going forward, I don't think a whole lot has changed for his projection, man. Like, you either have faith in the convictions of Norv Turner and Teddy Bridgewater, et cetera, or don't. And I put my faith in Norv Turner and Teddy Bridgewater. I think they're going to develop a very good rapport within this offense. Think about what Vernon Davis did in his second year / first year with Norv Turner and a green quarterback. He went nuts. And I think that's what you're going to see next year, as long as or even at the end of this year if he comes back and is able to play. But that's what you're going to see going forward, man. Like, Norv Turner didn't forget how to coach good offenses to get tight ends open, but he's hurt. So, I mean, if someone really values him as a low tight end 1, high tight end 2, I'd be all over that shit, man. Because I think going forward, he's going to be really, really good.
Yeah, I would agree with that. So I think what we're saying is his ranking as a low-end tight end 1 is probably about right.
At the moment, yeah, but I think he's probably a mid-tier guy by the end of the year again.
Yeah, and that's possible. That's very possible. I mean, there's just a lot of guys in that mid to low-end tight end 1 range that are, you could mix and match, quite honestly.
Let me put it this way. Why in the hell is he ranked behind Ladarius Green?
Well, I think that's just a case of fantasy rankers still holding on to hope and not wanting to admit, hey, we were wrong. Now, in their defense, though, with Green, I guess you sort of have to wait to see what Gates does, and B, when that's going to happen, right?
Yeah, but I mean, I can't believe, in a ranking system like this, a dude is knocked down more for an injury versus the guy isn't knocked down more for being able to beat the guy in front of him. I would take the guy that's the tight end 1 who's injured versus the guy that can't even win the job.
Sure.
That's
again, you're right, and we're, I think, splitting hairs at this point because the bottom line is neither are contributing right now.
That's
right. For various reasons. So,
yeah.
But yeah, so now, and again, I'm an unabashed Olsen lover. Why Olsen's behind both of those guys?
I don't know. Age, I guess. I don't know.
Look, I guarantee you over the last 5 years he's probably at least top 5 in producing tight ends, if not top 3.
Totally agree.
Anyway, Jason Witten, 12 to 16. I was a big Witten lover heading into the season, but he's really slowed down a lot. He really has.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and say I'm gonna humble brag. This is the one thing I got right going into the year. That I said this guy was on the decline.
No, you probably got more right. I mean, give yourself more credit than that.
That's fair. This was the most pronounced thing I was right about. You could kind of see the writing on the wall with this when it came to going to the running game. Terrence Williams emerging. There's just not the room for Witten that there was to operate in the offense before, which is fine. That's okay. He's still probably the second best blocking tight end in the league behind, I would say, Vernon Davis when he's healthy. But so he still is always going to see the field. He's always going to be an option. It's just they're not going to feed him the ball. So this is about right. I think if you own him for this year, whatever. But going forward, you really need to look to upgrade quickly.
Yeah, and look, especially in Dynasty, I mean, Witten is 32. Literally every tight end ahead of him in our rankings is younger than him. And actually, further than that, he's the oldest one on here besides Antonio Gates. So,
yeah, I know.
Look, and even before the season, I mean, he was probably nothing more than a guy that if you needed to win now in your Dynasty League, he was it. But he's not even that anymore, I would say.
Yep.
I mean, believe me, I would have gone after him early in the season as a buy low candidate, but now I just can't. I mean, it's too dicey at this point.
Writing's on the wall. Yeah.
And look, with Dallas, they're running it like a mother. I mean, like in historic proportions. So you can't necessarily bank on the fact that they're going to be chucking it all the time, So.
Agreed.
And then finally on our drops list, sickens me.
You still owe me money. Give me my money.
I do owe you money. I will pay you next week when I see you. Dennis Pitta from 13 to 20. I mean, man, it's just so disappointing. It just really is because he was on a good path. He really was.
Yep.
But broken hips, man. Apparently that's just a recurring thing. So,
which is why I made the bet to begin with. Yeah,
I
he's not ownable at this point. I'm sorry. If you break your hip twice and the second time was on a non-contact play, you're not an NFL player anymore. I hope he regains full mobility and full range of his hip. I hope he's healthy, and I hope he lives an awesome life. And I'm glad he got paid before this happened again,
I was
because
gonna say I hope he took an insurance policy out.
well, even that he signed that giant guaranteed contract before the year, about a year before this injury. So I'm glad he got his money. But he's not coming back from this. It's just not going to happen. So if you have someone that is willing to offer you like the 20th round of a 22-round pick, I mean, I would take it. Otherwise, I mean, you just make another plan moving forward. He's not ownable. Don't know what else to say.
No, and sadly, I will wave the white flag on this one. Yeah, I don't know. I don't even know if I can keep him, in the league you referenced earlier.
You can't. Just as a friend, you can't do it, man. Sorry.
Right. I don't think so.
No.
I mean, if you're in a 16-team league, or not 16-team, if you're in a 14-team league, I don't know how, if you're only keeping one or two tight ends, I don't know how you do that. I really don't.
I don't either.
So.
Because
here's the funny thing, though. Baltimore is passing like a mother this year.
Yeah, I know. It's odd.
I mean, he could have been in on something really good, and it's just really unfortunate.
Yeah.
But I have no doubt there's not one fantasy team in America that hasn't been beset by injuries at this point. You know what I mean? So, look, it happens to everyone, and it happened to me, and it happens to all of you. I have no doubt.
Yeah.
Anyway, so big risers this month. Let's get to some happier news. The one and only Travis Kelce from 19th to 12th, and probably will end up higher before the season's out. You, Jonathan, are a Kelce owner. Why don't you walk us through that one?
Yeah, so actually what I want to do real quick, I'm going to change script a little bit. I'm going to group the two risers together. So Kelce was
Whoa. Let's not get crazy.
Well, I want people to understand what to look for when you have new tight ends or new positions and how to figure out what's legit and what's not, okay? So we have Travis Kelce and Larry Donnell, or Donald, whichever one it is. They're the two big risers for the year, okay? The way you know that Travis Kelce is a legit thing going forward and versus Larry Donnell has questions to ask is look at the Niner game where from third and goal from the Niners 2-yard line, they went trips left, 3 tight end set with Travis Kelce as the farthest back set tight end and ran a bubble screen for him on the goal line. That is, and they do stuff like that. They draw up plays specifically to get the ball in his hands where there is action coming off the tight end, dragging across the field, where the counter action draws everyone away to isolate him against linebackers and safeties one-on-one. And they are doing this constantly. He is a big part of their game plan now. You see in some of the play designs what they're doing to get him the ball and why he's the primary read in this plays. That's not going to change going forward unless he gets hurt again. This guy is becoming – Dwayne Bowe's actually had a very good year. He looks good again. The offense isn't going to give him numbers, but he actually looks pretty good. But for big plays or impact plays, they're going to Kelce. That's their guy. Whereas Larry Donnell is a victim – he's not a victim. He's a merchant of circumstance, I'll say, where he is a second or third read on all plays except by the goal line where they run fade routes, which are way, way higher variance than the kind of play Kelce gets. And if Eli gets to him on the second or third read, he's done his job, he'll get the ball. But they haven't yet started designing plays for him and looking to isolate him one-on-one against safeties and linebackers like they have Kelce. So if you're talking about these two risers, they're both risers and justifiably so, but Kelce is the one I think that has the chance to stick going forward.
Yeah, no, I agree. And truly the only thing holding Travis Kelce back is Andy Reid at this point. I mean, look, it's just kind of mind-boggling. I mean, this is the guy that would not give the ball to Jamal Charles, in a close game for whatever reason. I don't get it, but yeah, no, I agree. I think he's well in the tight end one conversation. And look, we talked about this before. He definitely got lost in the shuffle heading into the season, A, because of the injury he had last year where he missed pretty much the whole season, and
Yeah.
B, because of the rookie tight ends coming in. And I don't think there's any doubt that if you were to ask anyone, hey, of the 4 tight ends, Kelsey plus the 3 rookies, meaning Amaro, Safarian, Jenkins, and Ebron, would you have? Kelsey would be it, right?
The only argument against would be Ebron's only 21 and Kelsey's 25.
And I would say Ebron's the only guy that you might have to think about.
Correct.
Like, you know, it might be a 1A, 1B type situation, but man, no. And look, and working to his advantage, there's no one else in Kansas City in the passing game anyway that, quite honestly, is a better target. I mean, Kelsey's it. So
yeah. To wrap this up, I've been reading the press clipping from Andy Reid and the team. It sounds like he was on a bit of a pitch count to begin the year because of the microfracture surgery. They wanted to make sure they could get his run blocking up to where it needs to be and that his body would hold up. It looks like it's going to. And although Anthony Fasano still starts games for some ungodly known reason, and it's mostly because their base formation has a lot of running plays, but whatever. He's going to be huge going forward the rest of the year.
Yeah, no, he's pretty good. And honestly, and you and I have talked about this because you're a Kelsey owner, I don't know that there's anything, I mean, don't get me wrong, every player has a but at the same time, he's a guy that has the potential to be a stud, and I don't know that there's anything on the planet you would trade for him. I really don't.
It'd be hard. It'd have to be a Godfather package at this point.
It would. All right. Anything else on tight ends? I mean, those were the big rises and drops. I mean, nothing really has stood out. Meaning, you know, there's no real big shakes. I think. I mean, Antonio Gates won't die for some reason.
I'm willing to make a prediction. Next time we go through the tight end rankings, the big jumper will be Safarian Jenkins. I think he's about to blow up.
Yeah, that's very possible. I mean, he's got the ability, and look, and you and I have talked about this, and it could be something we cover next week. But I'm a Mike Glennon fan. I think he could be okay. Not elite by any means, but look, I think he could start and be pretty productive. And you know, it's just that's another one of those things where you just don't understand why that team doesn't play to their strengths, which is, hey, let's just throw it up and see what happens.
If you want to get into this next week, I can, because I watch more Bucs football than I should, and I can actually go into a little bit of detail about why they're struggling offensively and the things they're missing. I will say,
forcing the run, is that why?
A lot of it stems from the offensive line play and injuries. I'll get into it later. But basically, like I'm not going to say I'm a Mike Glennon fan because a fan is a very strong word. There needs to be a word like something just barely less than supporter, like advocate. I don't know. Like Glennon should play. I don't think he fixes what ails this offense, though.
And that's very possible. Look, it's very possible next year they draft a quarterback and go that route. I don't know, but I just don't understand why they don't pass it a lot more than they are now.
I tell you what, tease for next week, people. If you're a Bucs fan or you want to know about your Bucs players, tune in next week. I'll have at least a 10-minute dissertation on what struggles the Bucs are having and how they're going to fix them going forward if they can be fixed. Because I already know this answer.
Done. Well, then we'll just have that cliffhanger for next week.
Done.
That wraps up another episode. That was pretty good timing too, if I don't say so myself. So
my soccer team appreciates it.
There you go. So be sure to check us out on DynastyFantasyFootballCentral.com, and we will see you next week.
Later, everyone.